Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, Spain's left turn on immigration.
Spain's government has announced it will grant legal status to hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants and asylum seekers.
As Europe continues to crack down on migrants, Spain is creating a new path to legal status. How and why is Spain going against the grain? I'm Kevin Hirten, and this is The Take. Hi. So before we continue with today's show, remember to leave us a comment telling us what you think about this episode and what stories you'd like to see us do next. Or if you're on your favorite podcast app, leave us a review telling us where you're listening from and maybe give us a 5-star rating while you're there. It does help the show.
My name is Marcos Bartolomé. I'm an audio producer with The Take. You're catching me in Barcelona today, where I live.
Okay. Well, Marcos, welcome to The Take. Now, Marcos, our regular listeners will probably recognize your name, but you are not only one of our fantastic producers, you are also the journalist I always call when there is news about Spain, and specifically when there's news about European immigration. So this is great because now our viewers get to share in this dialogue that we usually have behind the scenes. So this is very exciting. Okay, so now to the news. On Tuesday, January 27th, Spain's migration minister, Haleema Shah, announced that the government would grant legal residency and work permits to hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants.
Today is a historic day for our country. We're reinforcing a migration model based on human rights and integration and coexistence and compatible with economic growth and social cohesion.
Now, we'll talk about the significance of this in just a moment, but first, just walk us through the mechanics of it. How is this going to work going forward?
I think the workings of it are pretty straightforward. Spain is going to open a 2-month window between April 2026 and June 2026. It is expected for all undocumented migrants who are currently in the country to regularize their situation. And what do they have to prove in order for them to be regularized? It's pretty simple. They have to prove that they arrived to Spain prior to December 31st, 2025. And they have to prove that they've been here for more than 5 months, provided they do not have a criminal record. Can they do that? They can do that with either a public document, a private document, or a mix of both. So, for instance, an utility bill will work. Certificate that you're registered in a particular city or town works too. Also, if you've ever been to the doctor, you had a doctor appointment, you have a medical record, that works too. So it's pretty open, and people are saying that that is good news for the migrants who seek to regularize their situation.
Okay, so it sounds like this is a chance for people who have been living in the shadows to come out into the open, declare themselves, and get a path towards residency. The Spanish government does not officially track the number of undocumented immigrants, but estimates are putting it between 500,000 and 800,000. That's pretty significant. I mean, that's 1% of the population. Can you tell us about who these people are and the role that they play in Spanish society?
If we are talking about their makeup, where they're coming from, it is estimated that 80 to 90% of them are from Latin American countries. The rest of them, it's a mix. Some of them might be from North Africa, countries like Morocco, Algeria. We have a big influx of people coming from those countries. And then also the Sahel, and also in West Africa, the political and the economic situation there is driving people to Spain, be it through legal means, be it through the sea, through the Mediterranean, or to the Canary Islands, which is a Spanish archipelago of the Moroccan coast.
What type of jobs do the majority of undocumented immigrants do?
Well, I would say the works that people who do have legal status in Spain do not want to perform. Seasonal workers, people who are doing deliveries, domestic workers. That is the informal economy. Spain has a fairly big informal economy, and undocumented migrants are performing important labor when it comes to that. You know, it's absolutely necessary for the state of Spain to continue functioning, for the economy of Spain. And that was shown particularly in 2020 when all of what is happening now started to be discussed, because that was the time when a very big lockdown was enforced in Spain. And the people who were working in the informal economy couldn't afford to stop, right? The Spanish government was releasing and putting together measures for people to be able to actually stay at home. But those who do not have a formal work contract couldn't do that back in 2020. So that's when all of this issue of regularizing migrants started to be discussed.
So how hard is it for undocumented people to live day to day? I mean, how could this program improve their lives?
I cannot speak in their name, obviously, but my guess is that this is very, very important for them. For instance, if you are an undocumented migrant or you're stopped by the police in Spain, and Spain is a country that is notorious for its racial profiling of specifically black males and North African males, you can walk around in the street now without fear of being stopped by the police and then being taken to one of the different centers that Spain has for migrants that are undocumented, and later wait to be deported to your home country. And also, maybe you can go visit your family. Imagine 80-90% of them are from Latin America. You can now safely go visit your family without fear of not being able to come back. So it's major news. Now you can obviously work legally. That will give them access to jobs that are better paid. So that's one of the ways in which people will benefit from this.
Marcos, this move didn't happen by accident, and it certainly didn't come from politicians suddenly choosing benevolence. It's the result of a concerted grassroots effort that forced the government to pay attention. This is really change that comes from the bottom up. So with that in mind, tell us about Regularización Ya and how this coalition was able to activate this government to action.
It all started in 2020. It's an umbrella organization of more than 100 smaller organizations, and it's hard to overstate how big it is in terms of the ideological scope, because you might have the Soviet of Getafe, which is a suburb of Madrid, involved, but also you have the bishops involved, the church, the Catholic Church involved. So it's very, very broad. And this is like the whole sort of goal in the beginning when it was created was to bring to the Spanish Congress a popular initiative. That's when you gather a certain number of signatures. In this case, it was 700,000 signatures, which is a huge number if you consider that there is only a bit more than 40 million adults in Spain at the moment. So that was a huge collective effort. People were gathering these signatures for months and months. You would even go to the theater or to the cinema or to a nightclub, and at the entrance there would be a stand with people gathering signatures. So this was a very, very collective effort. And then in 2024, it made it to Congress finally. And what happened then was that most of the Spanish parties said yes for this to be debated. Even the Popular Party, which is our main right-wing party, said yes. Not the far-right party, Vox, but there was a big consensus around it. So eventually what happened is that this stalled in Congress. It didn't go to the very last step. So what the government is doing now is passing this through what we call a royal decree, which is the Spanish equivalent to an executive order.
Wow. Okay. So it was pushed into the Congress through the will of the people, but then the Congress stopped it. And now the government is trying to find a way past Congress by putting through a royal decree, which is like an executive order. But doing it that way is not without controversy, right?
This whole thing, this whole regularization is not happening without controversy for sure. We already have the far-right party, Vox, saying that they are going to take this to the courts. They're saying there's a lot of people talking about the pull factor, quote unquote, and how this is going to bring more people in. There's a lot of people. You have the right party, the Popular Party, as it's called, saying that this is a smokescreen to basically hide responsibilities. After last week, 45 people died in a train crash in the high-speed line going from Andalusia to Madrid. And then there is also talk about how the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, is doing this just to get more people to vote for him in 2027.
Wow.
That is I could say, a blatant case of fake news, because these migrants only get a year visa, and then they would have to turn that into a regular work visa. And then the path to nationality, if they are Latin American, is 2 years. If they are from Morocco, for instance, or from the Sahel or from West Africa, it can be up to 10 years. So there is no way in which they would be able to vote in 2027 for Pedro Sanchez. That provided they wanted to vote for him, obviously.
Echoes of the white replacement theory
Indeed.
rhetoric that you hear elsewhere. More with Marcos after this break. Okay, so Marcos, let's put what's happening in Spain into context, because it does seem to be bucking a trend here. In the United States, we've all watched this really violent crackdown in the name of immigration. Many European countries, including the UK, are restricting their immigration laws. Right-wing politicians are using this issue to great effect. We've seen this. So this is the question I keep coming back to. What is different about Spain? Is there something about the nature of the politics or the population that allows it to go one way where all of its peers in Europe are going the other?
What you're saying is so right. It's hard to overstate the extent to which this is back in a trend. We are seeing the horrific images coming out of Minnesota, from the US in general, everything, the sweeping campaign of deportations that ICE is carrying out. Within Europe, we see how Italy is trying to deport people to Albania. We see how Greece is starting to give prison terms to migrants who do not leave after they are not granted status. We see how in the UK, the rules for refugee status are harder and harder. It's been argued that Spain is not necessarily a country that is more welcoming to people from abroad. So I would warn against thinking that Spain is an exception in a sea of anti-migrant sentiment. I don't think that's the way it is.
Okay. We talked about the benefits for the individual migrants, but there are benefits for the country too, to have this normalization, to know who's been living in their country. Can you talk about what the state stands to gain? And besides, this happens a lot, not only in Spain, but all over Europe, or at least it used to.
Listen, Kevin, Spain is one of the oldest countries in the world. Like the average age is growing and growing. Right now it's in the 40s, but it's going to get worse. And it's also one of the countries with the lowest fertility rates. It doesn't reach the 2 children per woman goal for the population number to remain stable. If we were not to talk about human rights and how these people deserve dignity and human rights, if we were just going to take a very economy heavy approach, Spain does need these people for the pension system to work, for the economy to work. And it's also something that has been time and again proved that migrants across Europe, but in Spain too, are giving more in taxes that they're getting back from the welfare state. So again, there is a lot of talk about how these people come to Spain to take advantage of the system, of the welfare system, but that's just simply not the case.
You know, it's interesting. You said that about 80% to 90% of migrants are from Latin America. I wonder if that really does cut against the stereotype that most of the migrants are from Africa, especially what you see from the right. Do you think that distinction plays a role here? Is there a hierarchy of discrimination in Spain where maybe Spanish-speaking migrants are viewed slightly more favorably, and thus a project like this might be more politically palatable?
Yeah. As you just put it, I think the term hierarchy of discrimination sums it up very well. We have the president of the region, of the Madrid region, she said this last year in 2025. She said that Latin Americans are not really migrants because they speak the same language. They have Christianity as their religion. and they integrate. That is, on the one hand, racist towards people who might have an Islamic faith, or people who might be, from North Africa or from the rest of Africa. But on the other hand, it completely overlooks the fact that Spain is no longer this monolithic, Catholic, white society. It's a diverse, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society. And they are trying to talk about a Spain that no longer exists, in my view.
So, Marcos, aren't we also grading Spain on a bit of a curve, right? Because up until recently, these normalizations have been fairly common in Europe and in Spain. In fact, Spain's right-wing Popular Party, which is currently up in arms over this move, was behind 2 of these when it was in power. So perhaps this story and the reaction to it is actually more useful as a measure of just how dominant this rightward drift on immigration has become, even there in Spain. I mean, Spain is progressive on immigration when it comes to Europe, but does that make it progressive when it comes to immigration?
Spain is not progressive when it comes to migration. As you were saying, regularizations have been a staple of European policy until recently. We've had upwards of 40 regularizations from the 19th onwards in Europe. In Spain, we've had 6. 2 of them were carried out by the Popular Party in the years 2000 and 2001. The 4 that happened after that were carried out by the Socialist Party, the current center-left party. But then Italy did a regularization in 2020 and Portugal in 2021. That was the pandemic years. And then to respond to the other half of your question, I think it's very important that we keep in mind that Elma Sainz, the migration minister, said that this was an exceptional thing. We shouldn't view this as anything other than the exception that confirms the rule. And the rule is that Spain is outsourcing its migration enforcement to southern countries. And we've done an episode about this together, right, Kevin?
Yes.
Spain does have boots on the ground in Mauritania. Spain is contributing with vehicles for dumps of migrants in the Sahara Desert, in Mali, where there is an open conflict happening. Spain is paying a lot of money to Morocco, for Morocco to perform this labor, this work of containing the migrants within the African continent so they do not cross the Strait of Gibraltar towards Spain. And we were talking about these detention centers that Spain does have within its territory, within its own territory, where we do not really know what is happening. There is allegations of torture. There is allegations of ill treatment. At the same time, we were also talking before about the racial profiling. So we shouldn't be saying that this is a change of a trend, but rather an exception that confirms a trend.
Wow, very well said. So yeah, for you who cover this issue so closely, it must be a little bit jarring to see these headlines championing Spain as this sort of model of progressivism on this issue.
Don't get me wrong, I'm very, very happy that this is happening. And on Tuesday, I was thrilled when I saw, at the entrance of the Spanish Congress, all of these people celebrating. And it is very easy. We're seeing a lot of accounts on TV and in the media in general, because there's just so much people, even if we don't know the number. But I think I am trying not to be cynical about this. I am very happy that this is finally happening to so many people around me. And I just want for this, if it were to be possible, to be escalated, right? For this to be escalated to other countries and just like for the situation to improve in general when it comes to conversations around migration.
Yeah, and things change, issues change. An issue that's potent now might not be as potent in 5 years. It might be different. So let's end on that sentiment, because it is worth saying that this move is going to make the lives of hundreds of thousands of people better. But it's not really a fundamental change. As we speak, opponents are vowing to fight this every step of the way. Politicians seem to be well aware of the headwinds, the potency of this issue at the moment. But what's cool about this case is that the people clearly felt differently. Do you see this as a triumph of small d democracy over big D democracy? And could something like this scale beyond Spain, possibly, if Europe ever does decide to do a course correction on this issue?
I think for Europe to course correct, things would have to change significantly from the trend we are on right now. I do think this is a triumph of small d democracy. When the whole popular initiative stalled in Congress, I felt very disenfranchised politically, even because it had taken the efforts of so many people organizing to take it to that point. But now seeing that being once again taken by the government, even if it's through a different means, I think that is a continuation of the popular initiative, because that pressure was there and wasn't going away, even if the initiative stalled in Congress. So I think everyone is very aware that it was the will of the people and the organizing of so many people that made this possible.
Yeah. It does seem like it's a conflict that's baked into the democracy. The politicians are worried about winning elections, and immigration is an important issue. It wins you elections by being against immigration. But the people here wanted good policy, and they want something that makes the state run better. And in this case, in this small case, it seems like that side won.
Yeah, indeed.
Marcos, thank you for coming on The Take today.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Anytime.